Welcome to our deep dive into the world of nootropics. I'm really excited to explore these substances with you guys, these substances that can potentially enhance our brain function. So many of our listeners are interested in nootropics, whether you're seeking a competitive edge, or maybe you want to sharpen your focus, or just fascinated by the idea of optimizing your brain power in general. I actually have a pretty interesting story. It was a while back when I first heard about modafinil, this so-called smart drug that was popular in Silicon Valley for boosting focus and productivity. And at the time, I was working incredibly long hours, so naturally I was intrigued.
Yeah, modafinil is primarily prescribed for narcolepsy, but it's often used off-label for cognitive enhancement for the very reasons you mentioned.
Yeah, and initially, I have to admit, it was pretty remarkable. I felt like I could power through anything. But then came the twist. I had a pretty severe allergic reaction to it and ended up with some lasting scars. It was a harsh lesson about the potential risks of synthetic nootropics, especially when the long-term research on their effects is limited.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. The long-term effects of synthetic nootropics are often unknown, and your experience is a perfect example of why caution is paramount. That's why for this deep dive, we'll be focusing primarily on natural nootropics. These have been consumed for centuries, so we have a much better understanding of their impact.
That makes a lot of sense. And believe me, there are some truly impressive natural nootropics out there. So we'll be taking a closer look at the ones I use regularly, my top 6, if you will, to help keep my brain functioning optimally.
Sounds great. Let's start with creatine. It's very popular in the fitness world as a supplement for muscle building, but research suggests it can also boost our brain power significantly. Creatine helps recycle ATP, which is like the energy currency of our cells, including brain cells.
So it's essentially providing our brains with extra fuel.
Precisely. And the benefits can be pretty impressive. Improved memory, enhanced mental clarity, and sharper concentration.
That's pretty interesting. What's the typical dosage?
The standard dose is around 5 grams of creatine monohydrate per day, but remember to increase your water intake as well.
Good to know. Are there any potential side effects to be aware of?
Some individuals experience nausea, but you can usually mitigate that by splitting the dose throughout the day and staying well hydrated.
Got it. So creatine for memory and focus. What's next?
Let's delve into omega-3 fatty acids. They're incredibly important for overall health, but especially brain health. You can find them in fish oil.
I've always heard omega-3s are good for you, but why are they so crucial for the brain?
Well, modern diets tend to be overloaded with omega-6 fatty acids, while omega-3s are often lacking, and this imbalance can lead to inflammation, which can have a detrimental effect on brain function.
So omega-3s help combat that inflammation and keep things running smoothly in the brain.
Exactly. Studies have shown that omega-3s can help combat depression, reduce anxiety, and even decrease mental fog.
Wow, that's a pretty compelling list of benefits. What's the recommended dosage?
Aim for 1,000 milligrams of EPA and 500 milligrams of DHA daily. And here's a pro tip. Refrigerate your fish oil to prevent it from going bad.
Great tip. I'll definitely start being more mindful of my omega-3 intake. What's next on our brain-boosting journey?
Next up is magnesium, an essential mineral that many of us don't get enough of.
I know magnesium can help with sleep and relaxation, but what's the connection to brain function?
Magnesium actually plays a vital role in learning and memory. When our magnesium levels are low, we might experience fatigue and insomnia, which obviously impacts cognitive performance.
So magnesium is working behind the scenes to support overall brain health.
Exactly. It's fundamental for optimal brain function, even if we don't always consciously realize it. And while there are different forms of magnesium, magnesium alternate seems to have the most nootropic benefits.
Interesting. What's a typical dosage for magnesium alternate?
The standard dose is somewhere between 200 and 400 milligrams per day. Another tip, combining magnesium alternate with other forms of magnesium can be beneficial to ensure you're meeting your body's overall magnesium needs.
Great advice. So far, we've covered creatine for memory and focus, omega-3s for reducing inflammation and boosting mood, and magnesium for learning and memory. What's next?
Let's explore something called the sil-tip stack. It's a combination of nootropics designed to enhance long-term potentiation, or LTP.
LTP, what exactly does that mean?
Essentially, LTP refers to the process of memory formation and information processing in the brain. The sil-tip stack aims to boost this process, making you a more efficient learner.
So it's like giving our brains learning software an upgrade.
That's a great analogy.
I've personally found sil-tip to be incredibly helpful for my writing productivity.
While the sil-tip stack has shown promising results, it's important to note that it's considered more experimental. compared to the other nootropics we've discussed. So I always encourage people to do their research before trying it.
Solid advice. It's always wise to be informed before experimenting with anything new. What's next on our brain-boosting agenda?
Let's talk about dopamine precursors. This might be particularly interesting to you if you're looking for increased motivation or better goal achievement.
I've heard of dopamine. Isn't it the motivation molecule?
Exactly. Dopamine plays a crucial role in motivation, reward, and pleasure. While lifestyle choices like exercise and meditation can boost dopamine naturally, we can also support its production by making sure we're consuming its building blocks.
Building blocks. What do you mean by that?
Think of them as the raw materials our brains need to produce dopamine. These include amino acids like L-theanine and L-tyrosamine, which you can find in meats and dairy products. You also need vitamins B6 and C, as well as selenium, which are abundant in vegetables and nuts.
So maintaining a balanced diet is key for dopamine production.
Absolutely. While getting these nutrients from whole foods is always ideal, supplements can be helpful in filling any gaps.
Great point. So far we've covered creatine, omega-3s, magnesium, the sil-tip stack, and dopamine precursors. What's the final natural nootropic on our list for today?
Let's talk about L-theanine. It's the perfect companion to caffeine.
I love a good cup of tea. Is that where L-theanine comes from?
You got it. L-theanine is naturally found in tea, and it has this amazing ability to smooth out the negative side effects of caffeine. You know, those jitters, anxiety, and sleep disruption that can sometimes come with that afternoon coffee.
Oh, I'm definitely familiar with those side effects.
Yeah.
So L-theanine helps you get the focus benefits of caffeine without those downsides.
Precisely. It's like getting the best of both worlds. L-theanine has also been shown to increase alpha brainwaves, which are linked to relaxation, focus, and concentration.
Wait, so it helps you relax and defocus?
It's a pretty remarkable compound. And the dosage is simple. Just double your caffeine intake. So if you have 100 milligrams of caffeine, take 200 milligrams of L-theanine.
I have to say this L-theanine and caffeine combo is really intriguing. Smooth, jitter-free focus sounds fantastic.
It's definitely one of my favorites. And remember, when it comes to nootropics, finding what works best for you is key.
Absolutely. Everyone's body is different, so experimentation is important. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to emphasize something crucial. Always do your research before starting any new supplement regimen. Even if it's natural, talk to your doctor. Read up on potential interactions. And most importantly, listen to your body.
I couldn't agree more. Informed experimentation is essential to harnessing the power of nootropics safely and effectively.
That's a great point to end on. We'll be right back with part 2 of our deep dive into natural nootropics, where we'll explore some fascinating case studies and delve deeper into the science behind these brain-boosting wonders. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into natural nootropics. We've covered some potent brain boosters so far. Now let's shift gears a little bit and explore what happens when these nootropics meet the real world.
Oh, you mean how they actually affect people in their daily lives? I'm all for that.
Exactly. Let's start with a fascinating case study involving creatine. Researchers wanted to see how creatine supplementation would impact the cognitive performance of vegetarians.
Vegetarian?
Yeah. They tend to have lower creatine levels than omnivores because meat is a primary dietary source of creatine. The researchers divided the participants into 2 groups. One group received creatine supplements, and the other received a placebo.
So you could compare the effects of creatine against a baseline.
Exactly. After 6 weeks, they tested both groups on a variety of cognitive tasks, things like memory processing speed and mental flexibility.
I'm curious, did the creatine group show any significant improvements?
The results were pretty remarkable. The group that received creatine supplements showed significant improvements in both memory and processing speed compared to the placebo group.
Wow, that's pretty compelling evidence for creatine's cognitive benefits.
It is, and it highlights an important point. Even if you're not a bodybuilder looking to gain muscle mass, creatine can still have a positive impact on cognitive function.
Okay, creatine is officially on my radar now. What other real-world examples do you have?
Let's move on to omega-3 fatty acids. There's a compelling body of research linking omega-3s to improved mood and reduced anxiety. One study found that people who took omega-3 supplements daily for 12 weeks experienced a significant reduction in anxiety symptoms compared to those who took a placebo.
That's interesting. So omega-3s aren't just about sharper thinking. They can also contribute to a calmer, more balanced emotional state.
Exactly. And this is especially relevant today, considering how prevalent anxiety is in our modern world.
Absolutely. What about magnesium? Have there been any studies looking at its real-world impact?
There have been numerous studies showing that magnesium supplementation can improve memory and learning. in both animals and humans. One study in particular stands out. Researchers found that magnesium L-theanine, the form we discussed earlier, was able to reverse age-related memory decline in rats.
Wow. Reverse age-related memory decline.
I know, right? It's pretty exciting finding. Researchers believe that magnesium L-theanine's unique ability to cross the blood-brain barrier allows it to increase magnesium levels in the brain, which could explain these benefits.
So it's not just about getting enough magnesium. It's about getting the right type of magnesium.
That's a crucial distinction. That's why magnesium L-theanine is considered the top choice for nootropic purposes.
Interesting. Okay, we've covered some impressive real-world examples. How creatine, omega-3s, and magnesium can enhance cognitive function. What about the sil-tip stack?
Well, the sil-tip stack is relatively new, and research is still ongoing. There's a growing body of anecdotal evidence suggesting its effectiveness. Many people report significant improvements in memory focus and learning after using the sil-tip stack.
Anecdotal evidence is compelling. But it's important to remember that it's not scientific proof. We need more research to confirm its long-term effects and safety.
I agree. It's essential to be cautious and always consult with your doctor.
What about dopamine precursors? How do they play out in real life?
Well, as we discussed, dopamine precursors provide the building blocks for dopamine production, and dopamine is crucial for motivation drive and reward-seeking behavior.
So if you're feeling sluggish or lacking motivation, could supplementing with dopamine precursors help?
It's certainly possible. While more research is needed, there's some evidence suggesting that dopamine precursors can improve mood, increase energy levels, and enhance cognitive function in people with low dopamine levels.
So if you're deficient in the building blocks for dopamine, it makes sense that supplementing could help.
Exactly. It highlights the importance of a holistic approach to brain health. It's not just about taking isolated supplements, it's about ensuring your diet, lifestyle, and supplement regimen all work together to optimize your brain's natural chemistry.
I love that. A holistic approach is always the best way to go.
Okay.
Okay, what about our final nootropic, L-theanine? Have there been any studies looking at its effects in combination with caffeine?
There have been numerous studies investigating the effects of L-theanine and caffeine. One study found that this combination significantly improved attention reaction time and accuracy compared to caffeine alone.
So L-theanine really does enhance the cognitive benefits of caffeine,
Oh.
while smoothing out the jitters.
That's what the research suggests. And this combination is very popular among students and professionals who need to stay focused and alert for extended periods without experiencing those negative side effects.
I can see why. It sounds like the perfect study or work companion.
Indeed. We've discussed a lot of fascinating real-world examples and research supporting the benefits of these natural nootropics. But before we move on, I think it's important to acknowledge that everyone's brain chemistry is unique.
That's a good point. What works wonders for one person might have no effect on another.
Exactly. And some people might even experience side effects to certain nootropics. That's why it's crucial to start with a low dose. Pay attention to how your body responds and adjust accordingly.
And as always, consult with your doctor before starting any new supplement regimen.
Absolutely. So to recap, we've explored the world of natural nootropics, from their potential benefits to real-world examples and scientific research. But our journey isn't over yet.
I'm ready for more. What's next?
In Part 3, we'll delve deeper into the mechanisms of action behind these nootropics. We'll discuss how they work at a molecular level and explore ways you can incorporate them into your daily routine for optimal brain health.
Sounds great. I can't wait. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into natural nootropics.
Yeah.
We've explored their potential benefits and looked at real-world examples, and we've even touched on the science behind their effectiveness. Now I'm excited to take a closer look at how these nootropics work their magic at a molecular level.
Yeah, it's really fascinating stuff. It's one thing to know that something works, but it's even more interesting to understand why it works. So let's dive in.
Sounds great. Where should we start?
Well, let's revisit creatine. Remember we talked about its role in ATP recycling? That's a key part of how it works as a nootropic.
Right. ATP is the fuel that powers our cells.
Including brain cells.
Exactly. And by increasing creatine levels in the brain, we're essentially giving those brain cells more energy to do all their complex tasks.
So like a power boost for the brain. You got it. This extra energy can improve memory, enhance focus, and speed up processing.
Makes sense. Okay, what about omega-3 fatty acids? How do they work at a molecular level?
Well, omega-3s are essential parts of cell membranes, especially in the brain. They help keep those membranes fluid and flexible, which is crucial for efficient communication between brain cells.
So they're making sure the lines of communication between neurons are clear.
Exactly. And this improved communication leads to a whole range of benefits, like better mood, reduced anxiety, and enhanced cognitive function.
It's amazing how interconnected everything is. Healthy cell membranes, healthy brain. What about magnesium? How does it help the brain at a molecular level?
Magnesium is a very busy mineral. It plays a vital role in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the body, many of which are directly involved in brain function. It also helps regulate neurotransmitters. Those are the chemical messengers that brain cells use to talk to each other.
So magnesium is kind of like a conductor, making sure the communication network in our brains is running smoothly.
That's a great analogy. By making sure we have enough magnesium, we're helping our brains communicate effectively.
Makes sense. Okay, let's move on to the sil-tip stack. How does it actually enhance long-term potentiation, or LTP?
Well, the sil-tip stack targets several pathways involved in LTP, which is how our brains form and strengthen memories. One of the key ingredients is artichoke extract. It increases levels of a protein called CA.
C-eb. Haven't heard of that one before.
It stands for Can't-P response element binding protein. It's a transcription factor, meaning it turns genes on and off. And when it comes to LTP, CRAB activation leads to the production of proteins that actually strengthen the connections between neurons.
So the sil-tip stack is helping our brains build stronger neural connections.
That's the idea. And this stronger connectivity could be why people experience improvements in memory and learning after using sil-tip.
It's incredible how such small compounds can have such big effects on our brains. What about dopamine precursors? How do they impact dopamine production?
Dopamine precursors provide the raw materials our brains need to make dopamine. These precursors, like L-tyrosine and L-phenylalanine, are converted into dopamine through a series of reactions.
So we're giving the brain the ingredients to make its own dopamine.
Exactly. Making sure we have enough of these precursors helps the brain produce enough dopamine naturally, which is essential for motivation, focus, and that feeling of reward.
It all comes back to that balance in our brain chemistry. Now, lastly, how does L-theanine work at a molecular level, especially when combined with caffeine?
Well, L-theanine is very similar in structure to glutamate. Glutamate is a major excitatory neurotransmitter in the brain, but L-theanine doesn't directly activate glutamate receptors. Instead, it modulates glutamate activity, preventing too much excitation.
So it's like a calming influence on those excitatory pathways.
Exactly. This calming effect counteracts the jitters and anxiety that caffeine can sometimes cause. At the same time, L-theanine increases levels of GABA, another neurotransmitter that's associated with relaxation and focus.
So it's like a two-pronged approach, calming the overexcitation from caffeine.
Yeah.
And boosting GABA for focus and relaxation.
Exactly. It's no wonder this combo is so popular for those looking for a balanced and sustainable cognitive boost.
This has been such an insightful journey into the molecular world of natural nootropics. It's amazing to think that these compounds found in food and plants can have such a big impact on our brains.
It really is. And as we continue to learn more about the brain, we're bound to discover even more ways to enhance cognitive function naturally.
This conversation really highlights the power we have to influence our own brain health and cognitive function through natural means.
I couldn't agree more. Whether it's our diet lifestyle choices or even the use of natural nootropics, we have the ability to empower ourselves to think clearly, focus better, and ultimately live better lives.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive into natural nootropics, remember to do your research, consult with your doctor, and listen to your body. Informed experimentation is the best way to harness the power of these natural brain boosters.
Well said. Go out there, explore the world of natural nootropics, and unlock your brain's full potential.
That's a wrap on our deep dive into natural nootropics. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration.